Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode. And today I'm going to be talking to you about a headphone amplifier. It's made by a German company called RME, and it's called the ADI-2 DAC FS, which is a bit of a mouthful, but hey, that doesn't matter. So, I think it's time we got into it then. So, first things first, this little headphone amp is exactly that. It's little. It's only 215mm wide by 150mm deep and only 52mm tall. And it's surprisingly heavy, and it comes in at 1 kilo, which for such a small box means it is really, really well built. So, what's the ADI-2 actually going to do for you? Well, it's actually going to let you listen to USB sources, and it's also got 2 digital connections on the back. So then, let's not waste any time. Let's spin the unit round and let's see what we've got on the back panel. The first thing you might not notice straight away is the fact that it's got a locking power connector, which is actually really, really cool. And make sure it can never pop out. Just push it in and twist and lock. Now next up is the USB connection, and this little headphone amp actually supports from 44.1 kHz all the way through up to 768. Not to mention it also has full DSD support, and to make sure everything runs on time, they implemented their world famous Steady Clock FS, because when you're dealing with digital signals, jitter is your enemy. And the way you deal with jitter is to have an extremely accurate clock. And RME have done an absolutely astounding job of getting this down to the femtosecond, which after looking it up, I found out was a very, very small number. Then we have your normal digital inputs, SPDIF and a coaxial digital input. So you can plug your CD player, your Skybox, your FreeSat box or anything you want into that. Now the output terminals are either unbalanced phono or RCA leads. You get a left and right to connect up. Or if you're more in the professional side of things, you can actually use the balanced connections. Now, balanced connections won't sound better unless you're in a high RF environment, but they do lock into place. So once they're plugged in, they click and forget about it. Now, I know there's going to be some people shaking their heads at what I just said, but if you're using the same cable, one's connected via RCA, and the other one's connected via balanced XLR, and not forgetting that the cable you're using has got an outside shield, this is very important. The XLR will actually give you a proper grounded and shielded barrier if there's a lot of RF in the air where you're using the unit. And you also have the benefit that it locks into place, unlike a phono. And now we've got that all cleared up, let's move around to the front. Now personally, I really like the clean lines of this unit and the simplicity of the layout, and you may notice something slightly different on the front is there's 2 headphone sockets. That's not different within itself, but you've got a separate one for phones and then another for in-ear monitors, and we're going to run through this process right now. Nothing connected to the DAC, it defaults to line output, but as soon as you grab your pair of headphones and plug them in, it automatically switches over to the headphone output. And the other cool thing about this is when you do it, all of the settings that you change are only related to that particular headphone input. Also, headphones and IEMs have different power requirements, and as you plug in the relevant set of headphones or IEMs, the actual power changes on the volume control. The other benefit is you don't have to worry about messing up your settings for one particular type of cans for another. And now we've got a pair of headphones plugged in, I'm thinking it's about time we dive in and take a look at some of the features inside this amazing headphone amp. So for me, the biggest feature, except for the sound quality, is the EQ and the way you can use it on the different types of headphones. Now after pressing the EQ button, you're greeted with this multicoloured line, and what's that, you may ask? This rainbow coloured line stretches across the whole frequency range from 20 to 20k. Now this is where it gets cool. You can use the volume dial to increase or decrease a particular point on that frequency chart. Then by using the top dial, you can actually control the frequency or where this peak or dip will actually be. And as you can see, it's on the F and it's rolling down as I'm turning it, and it's moving the spike down the frequency range. So just to cover that again, I can turn the volume dial and it'll actually decrease the peak into a dip now at a -5 gain. But now if I use the number 2 dial, that will actually change my Q factor. Now the Q is the actual width of the frequency that I'm changing. Now in this respect, the lower the number, the wider the Q, and as you can see, it's gone from a spike to a nice big gradual mound. Now with those 3 dials, it gives us the ability to make quite a lot of changes. But wait, that's not all, folks. We actually also have the ability to go up and down this frequency spectrum, and we do that by actually pressing in the volume control. Because it's a rotary encoder, we can now, as you see on screen, change in the color of the actual letters is actually changing the position of where you're going to make the EQ curve. And as you can see on screen, I'm actually making quite a pretty pattern with the EQ curve. It's probably not going to sound very good, but I'm doing this to show you the flexibility and the power inside this USB headphone DAC. So once you've finally settled on an EQ curve that you like, unlike in this case, what you can actually do is you can actually store this as a preset. So by pressing the EQ button again, you're taken to another menu where you can scroll down and you can name and save the preset. Not only is that really cool, and it gives you the ability to, let's say, tailor a particular headphones, like my Sony 7506s, you can see they can be a little bit too rich on the bottom end, but with the EQ I can take that out so they sound more like my in-ear monitors, so that way I can have consistency of sound. So for me, I think fundamentally the EQ side of things is one of the most important things about this headphone amp. Not only do you have options with in-ear monitors and normal headphones, is that when you plug them in, it automatically connects and switches a whole load of parameters for you, which is absolutely amazing. And you don't get stuck in this situation wondering whether you've got the right parameters set for the right headphones. It just auto switches for you. I think now would be a good time to dive into the menus, and I can give you a quick run through of what's in there. I thought I'd ease you in gently. The actual top control, the number 1, will actually give you direct access to bass control on each of the 3 outputs, headphone, IAM and main monitor out, and you get plus or minus 5 dB. And then on the number 2 dial, you have exactly the same, but it's for the treble, plus or minus 5 dB each way. So you've got a nice, quick and easy adjustment if you want to make it. And then if you press the volume button right at the top, it gives you the options for the volume control, which is quite self-explanatory, and you also have a balance control using the number 2 rotary encoder. Pressing the I/O button takes you to more menus which are directly related to the headphones or IEMs that you're wearing, and this gives you an incredible amount of personalization, whether it be reference levels on volumes, changing the filter modes on the DAC, or even switching the polarity. This really is where you see the strength of this unit and the flexibility and the personalization. Now I think I should run through some of the pros and cons that I've had while using this headphone DAC, and I've been using this for monitoring all the way through while making this video. So the first pro, this sounds amazing. Now I've listened to vinyl, CD, movies, and it's all been brilliant. I haven't got a bad word to say about the sound quality. This thing is absolutely first rate. So I would personally recommend this for a serious listen. And then the other takeaway from this would be the flexibility to be able to have separate inputs for headphones, in-ear monitors, and then a monitor out, which you can plug into some active speakers or a power amp. You don't need any more than that. And then we're going to get to the cons. There aren't many, and I am being a bit picky. Personally, I prefer an internal power supply rather than the wall wart plug that you get, but hey. And then the menu systems, they aren't that intuitive, but it's like everything, the more you use it, the more you get used to it. But it wasn't very, very quick to get used to on navigating all the way through. I'm going to be really reluctant to hand this back to RME and go back to what I was using. But overall, it's a beautiful piece of equipment and it sounds fantastic. Along with the flexibility, I couldn't ask for anything more from a headphone amp. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.